The White House reaction to the Rob Porter scandal entered a new and in some ways perhaps even more offensive phase today. We're gonna play for you in just a second Donald Trump's comments about his outgoing aide, Rob Porter. But before you hear those remarks, I want you to have in the back of your mind these facts about the scandal. Colby Holderness, who was married to Porter from 2003 to 2008, has provided photos to news outlets of a black eye she says he gave her. He has provided no other explanation why she had that black eye in the picture. Porter's wife from 2009 to 2013 provided a copy of a 2010 protective order she filed against him. And I've also read now that a third woman, so that's Colby Holderness right there. So a third woman who said she dated Porter in 2016 has also come forward to say that he abused her as well. So those three women producing, I guess what you'd call like a he said, she said, she said, she said, and counting sort of situation. In the back of your mind as you listen to what Donald Trump chooses to say and not say about this scandal.
Do you have a comment on Mr. Porter?
Thanks, guys.
Well, we wish him well. He worked very hard. I found out about it recently and I was surprised by it. It was very sad when we heard about it, and certainly he's also very sad. Now, he also, as you probably know, he says he's innocent, and I think you have to remember that. He said very strongly yesterday that he's innocent.
So it was very sad, and you might think, oh, well, yeah, of course, if you found out that someone you've been working with has been habitually for decades beating the people who trust him the most in the entire world, that would be sad. But that's not what he meant at all. He meant it's sad because now they're gonna be forced to get rid of this guy. And this is only if you believe their story that they've just found out about this, and he said it right there. There's every reason to believe that we know Don McGahn apparently knew about this for something like a year. There's reasons to believe that John Kelly might have as well. But all of them are shocked and chagrined to find out about it right now. But even if that was the case, the only thing that's sad is that he's gonna have to leave, and he's sad too. The guy that's been beating multiple women, he's sad. No mention of the victims about how terrible the things that he did were. It's just sad for them.
So super important context here. To John's point, Trump said, certainly he's also very sad now. Okay, so we're sad that he's leaving, but he's also sad. He's sad that we found out that he's a wife beater. I think that the people who got beaten are a little bit more sad, and the fact that you it didn't occur to you to mention that is, I would say, is amazing, but it's Donald Trump. Now, if you watched the show yesterday, I actually also pointed out that Rob Porter has been denying this completely. And look, we never had due process on it. There was never a criminal trial. Keep that in mind, and that is still true today. And then that John Kelly and Orrin Hatch, who worked with him, were vehement that no, he's a good guy. This didn't happen, et cetera, right? But today we found out two other pieces of evidence that are relevant, not in a trial, but in how you think of Rob Porter and whether this happened or not. First and most important, the FBI apparently recommended to the White House that he was not going to get a security clearance and he should probably move on because the charges were in fact credible. Now look, if you're a right winger who's like in love with Donald Trump, now you don't believe anybody in law enforcement, especially at the FBI. I know you hate cops, you hate the FBI, everything they do is fake news. But for the rest of us, the FBI doing a year-long investigation and saying, yes, the charges are credible, has a lot of weight, a lot of weight. Why? Why would they make up a thing about Rob Porter? That just doesn't make any sense at all. They're trying to confirm these people and clear them so they get security clearance. Okay, number two is, he did finally, or at least we finally got publicly what his excuse for the black guy was. And that's why I said yesterday on the show, she says that he hit her. He says, no, he actually took the picture and it had nothing to do with that. So what's his excuse that we find out today? He said that he and Holderness were, quote, arguing over a vase and that she was, quote, somehow hit with the vase. Oh, that's a terrible explanation. Terrible. So look, I'm not a judge, I'm not on the jury, and you'd have to go through a whole proceeding. But look, in terms of court of public opinion, black eye, okay, but you could have gotten the black eye in other ways. And then he says, oh, somehow she got hit with a vase.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that's terrible.
That is the weakest story. I mean,
that you could possibly come up with, and certainly he's had time to come up with it, right? He knew that the mob was gathering at the gate and that he had to have some explanation as to how this is
Let alone the fact that it happened years ago, Mark. Like, you've had years upon years to come up with an excuse, and yours was somehow she got hit with a vase, you know what I'm saying? That's the best you got?
And it's just amazing the continued willingness from Donald Trump and all of the people around him that it doesn't matter what the women say or what evidence they have. It's 100% irrelevant. Like, even if you believed, okay, she's got this picture, maybe she just got hit by this magical vase. Okay, fine. Why are the 2 other women lying about it then? They are willing, and 3, they were willing to do it with far more. I mean, do you remember Roy Moore? Wasn't that long ago. But Trump apparently is just a really trusting guy, as you'll see in this clip where he's talking about the allegations against Roy Moore.
Well, he denies it. Look, he denies it. I mean, if you look at what is really going on and you look at all the things that have happened over the last 48 hours, he totally denies it. He says it didn't happen. And, you know, you have to listen to him also. Let me just tell you, Roy Moore denies it. That's all I can say. He denies it. And by the way, he totally denies it. Well, he denies. I mean, Roy Moore denies it. And by the way, he gives a total denial. He totally denies it.
So if he just denied it, okay, fine, he can't be a senator. But if he totally denies it, or if he strongly denies it, I mean, does it matter that the 4 or 5 or 6 women don't deny it? Does that matter? For some reason, you seem to weigh his opinion slightly higher. It's not the only one. Even for bigger things, like international scale politics, as long as you strongly deny it, as you'll see.
I think it was very obvious to everybody. I believe that President Putin really feels, and he feels strongly, that he did not meddle in our election.
Well, if he's got the gut feeling, I mean, if he feels it. Oddly enough, back in 2012, Donald Trump tweeted, if Rihanna goes back with Chris Brown, she has a death wish. Once a beater, always a beater. Maybe there's something different about Chris Brown. I don't know. He's not on his staff, I guess, so him denying it isn't enough in that case.
There was also a picture in that case, which apparently he found dispositive when it was an African American who was accused of the abuse. Anyway, but that's a small thing. So let's look at the race of Chris Brown. By the way, Chris Brown also definitely did it. Okay.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So look, it's John's point's a great one and one I haven't heard anywhere else before, which is, well, you've got all these women coming out against Roy Moore, and they strongly say he did it. But none of those matter. He strongly denies it, that's it. All that matters is the strong denial. Okay, 3 different women, including 2 ex-wives, come out against Rob Porter and strongly say he did it. That doesn't matter though. He strongly denies it. So the one strong denial by an ally, a co-conspirator, a male colleague is enough to outweigh 3 strong accusations or 6 or 12, etc.
I think the reason it does is it could be, for many men, it could just be sort of, it's a guy. It could just be misogyny. That would be enough, I think, in some cases. But I think in Trump's case, that's not why he is simply willing to go with what the guy says, or at least imply that that's all you need. It is nothing more than self-interest. What is Trump's defense against the many increasing number of charges that he has sexually harassed and sexually assaulted women? He denies it. He denies it strongly. He totally denies it.
Well, he
wants you to. He wants that to be enough. That's all that it takes.
No other high ground. He's clearly, and something happens here. We begin to try to ascribe some logic to this guy who's completely illogical and is all about self-preservation. Trump is going to serve up whatever message. In the case of Roy Moore, it was a ridiculous thing that he would connect himself to Roy Moore to begin with because he could see him sinking like a stone, and still he hung on to him. And because it was his reputation, he began that ridiculous sort of propping up of Roy Moore's story. As you say, it doesn't pass the smell test, nor do any of these other denials. He needs Porter there because he's one of the few guys who knows what the hell he's doing. From everything I've read, he was competent in his job at the White House. Clearly, he's a monster once he leaves the White House. Yeah. But that Trump is sad that he's leaving, I'm not surprised. But his defense, and as you say, turning his back on the victims, especially when the victims. It's a shame, and it really is a sad thing when you see their stories come to life in pictures. You know, when you see the picture of these abused women, it's very, very difficult to turn your back on that. And yet, Trump has. In any case, I think he legitimately is sad to see Porter go.
So there's a lot of drama and political gamesmanship behind Porter's allies and enemies within the White House. We talked a lot about that yesterday. But to the whether this is a political hit job against him by other Trump people who want to get rid of him and Kelly, that does not affect whether he actually did it or not. Now, to Mark's point, one of his ex-wives, Willoughby, explained something that was also, look, I got to be honest with you, yesterday, as he strongly denied it, and then Kelly on Wednesday, when Kelly strongly denied that Porter would ever do something like that, and Orrin Hatch went out of his way. And these are people I don't trust, I don't agree with politically at all, but they were so vehement that no, it is false allegations. There's no way Rob Porter would do something like this. I said, look, he hasn't been adjudicated, and I mentioned that on the show how many times yesterday. Now, though, Willoughby, one of the ex-wives, has had a conversation with Anderson Cooper, and it clicked for me. So she said, look, I now have a good relationship with him, and he wanted me to say that we had a good relationship back in the marriage, but we didn't. And so, but now he's okay, and she said, look, Porter was an intelligent, kind, and professional guy most of the time. But within the marriage, he would often grow, quote, deeply troubled and angry and violent. And she said that she felt during her marriage, quote, a low-grade constant terror of not knowing what I might do to set something off.
Wow.
Which again, to me, was like, okay, that makes sense. Because the people who work with him go, well, that's a nice guy. He's a professional guy. He's an intelligent guy. He's a Rhodes Scholar. He went Harvard-educated guy, and among the Trump guys, he seems like a stable, not genius, but a stable guy relatively. But when you're in a relationship with him, as the 3 women who were in relationships with him, 2 of them married to him, have all attested to, yes, but behind the scenes, he's a lit fuse, and sometimes the fuse goes off, dragging them out of the shower, hitting her, giving her the black eye in another case, slamming down on a couch. And by the way, like a lot of victims, even to this day, some making some mild excuses for him, like, well, he would throw me down on a soft couch, right? So when you put all this together, it's the picture becomes way, way clearer of Rob Porter publicly and Rob Porter privately. Yeah. And so if Kelly, especially Orrin Hatch, Kelly actually got briefed by the FBI. But Orrin Hatch, maybe you don't know all that. And as much as I can't stand Orrin Hatch on day 1, okay, that's a little different, okay? On day 3, Trump has now been briefed and the whole country's talking about it, and you know all this stuff and you've seen the pictures, and still says he's a great guy. We wish him a wonderful career, and he's sad now. Come on, man, have just one fraction, one iota of sympathy for the actual victims. If you become a member of the Young Turks, you'll be saying,
I'm like a smart person.
So do it right now, tytnetwork.com/join. Get the whole Young Turks show every day.